So I'm here in another section of the plan to bring biodiverse security to our area by 2026. This, as most of you will know from the area, is the North Beach. So here are the two fields connecting on this side of the walk to Bray. Bray is already protected as a special area of conservation, that's a SAC. And the beautiful part that they've just built here on the coast can be the beginning of this nature reserve on the coast. What you want to do is you want to produce insects on a vast scale. Now the only way you get insects is you can plant vegetation. So we need to improve the vegetation throughout these fields, that the vegetation is only for nature. When you have insects, you've got birds. When you have birds, you've got birds of prey, and etc. If you have this field and it's all retained for nature, you'll have rabbits. The rabbits will feed foxes and other predators, so all of nature starts building. So what you want to do is plant the right trees here. This is falling into the sea constantly. You can't do anything about that. But one of the things you can do is, if you just come down here, one of the things you can do is deal with soil compaction. Now this soil has recently been, thanks Ivy, this soil has recently been ploughed a little bit. It's reasonably loose, but when you run tractors over this, as you can see here, you get what's called soil compaction. So as the water is coming off the mountains here, look at the angle over here, and the angle of Bray Head, you see the huge amount of water that hits this field. Now there was a recent collapse on the path, which happened a week ago, and that's because of the huge water runoff, you can see there, Karina, the huge water runoff hitting that bank of trees. There's nothing to stop it. So a part of those fields should also, they should build up their hedgerows. That will hold their soil together. But the key thing for here is, as far as I know, this land is rented. It was owned by the Fox family, who was born in Winegate's house, which is on the hill. And this land was sold around 10 years ago. And at the present time, it was supposed to receive a road that was going to go along it to connect to the harbour, but that didn't go ahead. The council said no to that, and they went with the road connecting from the harbour itself into the new development that was built. So that means this land will never get zoned for building. It's not safe because the cliff is falling in. So the best use of a coastal field all across Ireland, by the way, the coastal fields, is allow them for our birds. So Birdwatch Ireland, this would be a huge win for them to actually create this coastal reserve. And what I'm picturing is there'll be viewing stations with telescopes at different points along the path here in order to view the birds and look at the sea, at the different boats going past, etc. We don't necessarily go into this. It's not for people, it's a nature reserve. So you're giving this over to nature, and that's the big thing people have to understand. Nature needs land. If you don't give land to nature, it dies, and it's happening all over the world. So we have to do this for nature and subsequently for our children and the next generations. So picture this, the whole thing gets seeded in November with, you still have to work with the farm, so the farmer's renting this at the moment. We will be paying the rent. So if the council won't put up the money, I'm saying we'll put up the money. The people will raise the money ourselves, and we will rent it for 10 years from the owner at the going rate that it is. And we farm it for nature. That means you come in, you sow the land with all the seeds native to Ireland, but you also include in that certain wheat seeds, barley and oats, because there's particular birds and insects that live in that. So we'll have different sections for different types of habitat. Within 10 years, you will have so much life come here. But you know, we already have come. Most people don't know about this. You have the sand martin. Oh, thanks, Ivy. Ivy found some seeds. This is my daughter, Ivy. Wow. We have the sand martin. The sand martin comes all the way from Africa. And where does it come? It drills holes down the far end. So if you walk along the sea, you'll see these holes very high up in the cliff face. That's the sand martin. So what I want you to picture is, this is called ecocentric. Imagine you're a sand martin. What does a sand martin do after it's so tired after flying all the way from Africa? It needs to eat loads of insects to build back up its body. It needs protein. But if we're robbing the birds of all foliage, of all things that actually produce insects, they get very little. So they're going to the hedgerows, they're going to different areas, but many of the hedgerows in Ireland are being stripped away by the farmers because they lose productivity if there's shade on their land. That has to stop. We need our farmers to start working with us. We need the IFA to get out of the business of damaging nature and start working with us on that, and let the people who understand nature manage it. So that's Birdwatch Ireland, Swan, the environmental pillar. These are the people who understand how to rebuild nature, and if we don't do it, farming will be threatened in 20, 30 years. This is what the farmers have to understand. The guidance here is completely off. Your soil will stop working if we continue working that way. But just staying focused on this, look at the scale. So I'm saying both sides of the walk will be this nature reserve, filled with birds, filled with willow. You can see some willow over here. Willow is 450 species. 450. This is from a recent study in 2016. Oak 1,000. Oak is the biggest, willow is second. So please, everybody, plant willow in your garden. You know, if you've got a large garden, plant some oak stands for the next generation. And yeah, so I thank you once again for everybody who's signing the petition that we've put up. And yeah, this is one of these big projects we can do. It's totally doable. And as I said, if the council and the government can't get behind us, we'll find out the owner. If people can help me find out who the owner is, please. We will contact them and we will get it rented. We'll put up the money for a 10-year lease, and we'll make this reserve. It'll be once again, as Annette said, it'll be the people's nature reserve. We will fund it. But I would hope that people like Minister Stephen Matthews, who I will be talking with, our local our TD Stephen Matthews, and our local minister Simon Harris, who has a family in the area. You know, this is for our kids. If we don't start to do this, they inherit a terrible portfolio from us when they're older. So Ivy's going to have to clean up my mess. I'm not letting that happen, and I'm reaching out to everybody in our area. Don't you let it happen. We have to change this. So anyway, I keep you posted on everything, and go to www.mywildireland.ie